Hi, it's Erwin Ellman, NDP candidate for Don Valley West, and I'm speaking to you here from Thorncliffe Park. Thorncliffe Park, for those in the riding who don't know, is probably the most densely populated area of the riding. It certainly is. It's perhaps the most densely populated area of Ontario, perhaps Canada. 50,000 people live in Thorncliffe Park. I want to say something to them about the 6 months I've spent knocking on doors, being in the mall, in the schools, listening to people. Thank you. You've been so warm, so welcoming, so open, so honest about your hopes, your dreams, and honest about your disappointments too. I feel honored to have been entrusted with your stories. I cannot live my life again as if I've never heard them. I've heard them now. The other thing I want to say to you is that I've come to understand Thorncliffe more than I ever did, even when I used to be part of the community working with people here. This community is vibrant, is determined, is strong. I've met lawyers, I've met doctors, I've met daycare workers, I've met IT professionals, I've met accountants. You name the profession, you are here, except you're not able to work in the profession you've chosen and been trained for in another country where you've come from, to Thorncliffe Park, many of you. It's not right. And I imagine Thorncliffe being harnessed, this determination, this power, this energy and talent here, being harnessed to become a social economic engine of the city, let alone perhaps even the province. Imagine what Thorncliffe could be. Yet it's been held back. That has to end. That has to end. And it's why I've released the Thorncliffe Declaration. I know from listening to people who live in the buildings that there are a lot of repairs that need to be done. I also know from visiting and meeting with the tenants organizations that there's something called Rent Safe that the City of Toronto runs that looks at all the buildings and the maintenance that needs to be done and makes orders to the landlord. And the landlord doesn't often fulfill them, at least not in a timely manner, because Rent Safe has no teeth. We will create a bill, a private member's bill, right here in Thorncliffe. We'll do it together. And I'll bring it to the legislature, a Thorncliffe private member's bill to give teeth to programs like Rent Safe and other programs like it across the province. Nothing less than that for the people of Thorncliffe. Another pledge in the Thorncliffe Declaration is that I, as an elected representative for Thorncliffe Park and Don Valley West, will bring service providers in the community together with the city, with the province, to ensure that services are delivered in a language that is accessible to the people who live here. There can be nothing more frustrating, as you told me, than to be told to fill out a form on a computer that's in a language that isn't your first language, and perhaps one that you can't even read. It's not fair, it's not acceptable, and we can do better than that. I know if we work together, we can do better than that. Thorncliffe Park has so many grassroots organizations operating on shoestring. Very little money, if any, run by very determined, talented people. I want to bring together what I've done in other areas, a funders table. Now, I don't have any power to administer funding as elected MPP, but I brought together foundations and corporations, even other levels of government, to support a particular issue. That's what needs to happen in Thorncliffe. A funders table that meets at least 3 times a year, that meets with these grassroots organizations and figures out how to support them to thrive. So they spend less time chasing dollars just to do the work that they want to do for the community, and more time supporting the community, supporting the work that they were meant to do. This too is possible. I don't know why it's not been done, but it can be done now. One of the first things I would do when elected representative for Don Valley West and Thorncliffe Park is establish a constituency office right here in Thorncliffe. Why hasn't that been done in 20 years? It needs to be done. If a MPP is going to be accountable to the citizens, residents who live here, then they need to establish an office here. The other thing I would say is that we need to have our own Service Ontario and our own service candidate in Thorncliffe Park. Not Flemington Park, but Thorncliffe Park. 50,000 people live here and need service from Ontario government and the Canadian government. It needs to be here too. And we can do that. We can work towards having that happen. I've heard you. I know there's a lot of repairs that need to be made in many of the buildings in Thorncliffe Park. I don't think it's okay for your member of provincial parliament to just say it's not our jurisdiction, so we walk away. Your member of provincial parliament needs to be your advocate. So what I'll do is ensure that there's a report created by my office twice a year of all outstanding orders in all the buildings in Thorncliffe Park that's made public and names the landlords that have those outstanding orders. I'll also get together with technical services at the City of Toronto to ensure that there's prompt attention paid to problems with elevators, because when elevators don't work, it's a safety concern, not just a luxury. I agree with the residents of Thorncliffe Park that they need transportation in and out. We need the Ontario line. What we don't need is a train yard that takes up 10 football fields when there could be and are alternatives. So I want Metrolinx to look at all alternatives, particularly those proposed by the community and the organizations like Safety Park. I want Metrolinx to try and repair the damage that they created in the lack of consultation in the community, pitting different parts of the community against itself, splitting the community, raising unnecessarily tension in the community. If they had a proper consultation process, things could have been so much different, so very different. So now, I ask Metrolinx to cancel that $4 million contract they paid to a public relations company to do consultations after the fact, and use at least half of that contract, the money that came from that contract, to support the community to work with Metrolinx to come together and make a community plan for what's necessary for Thorncliffe Park. Because building train lines is not just building transportation, it's about building community. So if there needs to be a new school in Thorncliffe Park, and there does, build the school. If there needs to be new community center in the community, a swimming pool in the community, build the swimming pool. In addition to the rail line that's going to come through. And listen to the alternatives that community proposes for a train yard. Nothing less. Thorncliffe deserves that. Imagine the economic and social engine that Thorncliffe could become if it was properly supported. You know, your member of provincial parliament can't promise to change the world. I've never held that standard for myself, that I personally can change the world. But I don't think I'm exempt from trying. It's not about me, it's about us. And that's what, for me, the Thorncliffe Declaration is about. How we together can improve things, improve lives in Thorncliffe Park, so we can achieve the vision that you for your community. You know, one of the things I've learned already about running in this election, remember, it's the first time I've ever done anything like this, is that people don't trust politicians. And I'm as cynical as the next person about political promises, people coming to my door, to go to your door in Thorncliffe Park and saying, I'll do this, I'll do that for you. As a party, promises about policy, promises to do X, Y, or Z. I get it. You've heard a lot of promises and a lot of talk, and yeah, perhaps you think some nice things have been done, but in the end you've told me that nothing has really changed. And that builds mistrust. And I thought, what could I do to ensure that there's a building of a relationship of trust between me as your representative and you? And And I thought of creating a Thorncliffe Declaration that was not just about what my party says it will do about rent control or about more jobs or about housing or about the rail yard in Thorncliffe Park, but what I would do specifically. And I called it the Thorncliffe Declaration. These are things I can control and I can pledge to you. That's why I did this, because I hope it's a tool that you can use to hold me accountable the day after the election and I'm elected in Don Valley West. 2 days after, 3 months after, 4 months after, not now 4 years after at the next election when you see politicians coming and putting up the signs in Thorncliffe Park or knocking on your door. This Thorncliffe Declaration should be a tool, a living, breathing tool that we can change together, but it includes many pledges I make to you personally of what I will do as your representative. And I challenge other candidates to create their own declarations or use mine.